Hey, I'm Becca with the Happy Ever Crafter, and in this video I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do one of my favorite floral borders that I use in my bullet journal. Let's jump right in. So this page here is a page in my bullet journal that I did a long time ago. This is generally like the layout that I do in mine. And actually, I know a lot of you are going to ask about my bullet journal and what bullet journaling is and how you can do this. And I have a full video on that as well. So you can watch that one later if you want to. But for this one, I'm just going to be showing you how I do this border down here. And this is an example of what I'm about to show you. So I'm going to flip to a spread that I did a long time ago, and I'm going to do it on this page since this is pretty blank. So for this, I'm going to use two different pens. I have micron pens, size 1 and 5. So if you don't have micron pens, or if you have a normal like ballpoint pen or whatever, you can do that too. It doesn't have to be these. These are just some of my favorites. And I like having one smaller and one bigger, one for like bold lines, the outline of the flowers, and one for the details. So these flowers are going to be daisies, and if you've been following along with this series, you would have seen a couple weeks ago I did a full step-by-step tutorial on how to draw daisies. So if you haven't seen that one, go and check that out first because it'll make it a lot easier to do this. I'm not going to go super in-depth on how to draw the actual flowers. I'm more just going to show you how to do the border. So once you've seen that, let's jump right into doing the layout on here. The first thing I'm gonna do is sort of decide how big I want them to be. So on this page, this is sort of my natural border, and it's just kind of the evening of all the days that I had where I didn't have too much going on. So I'm gonna fill that in with flowers, and you'll notice that here on this side I've got things that run into that, but it's totally fine. I'll show you how to work around it. So I'm gonna start right over on this left side, and I'm just gonna kind of jump in. So I'm gonna draw the middle of the flower, and what you'll notice about that first layout that I showed you is that all of these flowers are running off the bottom edge here, and they're all ending at that last dot on my bullet journal. So I'm gonna do the same thing here, which means that I want my circle, the middle of my daisy, to not be centered in that space. So I want it to be a little lower, and I'm gonna start it right about here. And again, if you watched my tutorial on daisies, you'll know how I'm going to draw this, but for now I'm just going to speed it up and we'll work through this pretty quick. So once I have the center of my flower drawn, I'm going to start drawing the petals. And again, I want my flowers to end at that bottom dot and also at this one top dot here under the letters PM. So as I draw my petals, I'm going to work all the way up to that dot, and then I'm going to stop. And I'm going to keep going with the other side of the petal as if it has extended past there. And then same thing as I work around the whole edge of the petal. Now it's up to you if you want to make that really detailed. I like to just leave those basic outlines, like those basic petals that would be at the front, as opposed to adding them in behind. But if you want to make it really detailed, you can go ahead and do that for sure. The next thing I'm going to do is draw my next circle, and you want your flowers to be overlapping. So don't be afraid to put it sort of close. And you also don't want all of your centers to be aligned. You want some to be higher, some to be lower. So I'm going to put this one a little bit higher up. And then I'm going to do the petals the exact same way, but now keeping in mind that it's going to run behind the flower beside it. And then you're just going to keep going and doing the exact same thing all the way down the edge. So if you're working on a bullet journal like I am and you have any pages that overlap like this fancy one that I do, I'm just going to keep working right over that edge as if this was one page, and then I'm going to turn and I'm going to work my way backwards. So you'll see me do that. Okay, so I've got the outline done and now I'm gonna add some really basic details. So if you watched my other daisy video, you'll know that I put in a lot more detail in those ones, but when it's in a bullet journal, I feel like it's a little too overwhelming. So I'm just gonna do really simple details in this one. All I'm gonna do is take my 01 pen, my lighter line, and I'm gonna add essentially an outline on the inside of every petal, basically around the whole thing. And you can even just leave it like that if you're happy with it. But what I like to do is just add a couple little detail lines running up the middle. Like really light kind of flicks. And then I'm gonna do that for all of the flowers. All right, and then the last thing I do is you'll notice on that first one I showed you that the tops of the flowers actually come full in some of them. And so what I'm gonna do on this one is look at kind of my layout, and on this first page I can extend the tops of those flowers everywhere. And of course I could have done this at the beginning, but I wanted to show you why I'm doing it the way I am. So for example, here where this PM is, I'm gonna avoid that and go around it. Same thing over here, as if the petal sort of wraps around the words. And then when I flip the page, there are spots where I didn't want it to run into the words. So I'm gonna work around them. And some of my petals would go above them, and some would naturally end before. So like this one I wouldn't have to draw the top of it because it wouldn't be that long anyway. And then the rest of them I can extend. And what I even did on this blue page was after I was done, I took white out and I filled in all the spots where, like I whited out all of the color that I had from my highlighter. So if you wanted to get crazy, you could do that in some of these flowers. On this first page, it doesn't matter, but like here, there's a little bit of green overlapping. And if you're really kind of picky and it's gonna bug you, you can go through with white out. So I'm just gonna finish filling in these details here on the petals that I added on. And that's it for my border on my bullet journal. So again, if you want to do more intense, more realistic looking daisies, you're welcome to do that. And make sure you've seen this tutorial because there's actually even a free worksheet that comes with it. But overall, this is essentially what I tend to do in my bullet journal. I'll do the whole spread and I'll use it for the week, and then I add in the florals later, wherever it makes sense with the words that I had on the page. So I hope you enjoyed that. And again, make sure you've seen the rest of this series because I've done lots of different flowers. And lastly, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I put out 2 tutorials every single week. And I'll see you around.